Karibu sana, as they say in Tanzania, and the response would be Asante Sani. Good morning and welcome to the Morning Brief on Channels Television. It's wonderful to be back. I'm back with my friends. Hello, Kadi, and hello, Jeffrey. How are you guys doing?
We saw you dancing in Dar es Salaam, and all you came back with is Karibu sana. And what's that thing she gave us? Is it... Oh, I'm trying to remember.
Oh, Jeffrey, let's keep behind the scenes.
So we actually sent Bukola to Dar es Salaam, and we're waiting for a report day one or report day two. We saw her dancing. Hey, we sent you for a job, for God's sake.
Jeffrey, let's keep behind the scenes. But the reports did come, but you didn't see that.
Yeah, it came as a track, first of all, before it came as a report.
Oh,
but
Jeffrey.
We're super happy that you came, or you went there, you're back.
Jeffrey has no filters.
No, come on, it's a morning show. We just have to chat. It's real life show. It's not like we're not reading news here, are we? No.
Okay. You're reflecting.
Yeah.
Good morning. I'm just enjoying this.
Welcome to the program, by the way. I'm just reminding Bukola that she didn't bring just about enough. All the way from Dar es Salaam. She was away for a whole week. Anyway.
Okay. You guys should have a spin-off. Said that time and again.
Well, we're planning it.
Both of you should have a spin-off.
Jeffrey and Bukola part one.
You know, I think you will be a hit.
Between the show, BTS.
BTS, right. So just in case you want to see Bukola and Jeffrey on a spin-off, let us know, okay? You know where to tell us on all these channels. But welcome to Lagos. I'm Kayode Okikilo. It's a brand new week, and Monday means business first right here. Bukola, welcome back, by the way.
Yeah.
Anne has been doing some amazing job in your absence, and you know this seat actually comes with a lot of responsibility, a lot of influence,
and
a lot of cliche.
By the way, let me just thank Anne for standing in ever so elegantly, gracefully, beautifully, and intelligent for me. Thank you, Anne.
But Anne caught the bug. Bumper was one of those bugs.
Yes, it was.
How in the world is bumper still a word in the English dictionary?
But
somehow, Bukola and Anne have made up their mind that they rather just don't sit here than don't use the word bumper.
It comes with the seat.
I gave up.
Did she say spinster?
No, she forgot that one.
She didn't
we're
get that
happy to have you back, by the way. We're happy, we're excited. So how was your stay in Dar es Salaam?
Oh, beautiful. And, you know, the conference comes with a lot of things to reflect on as far as the health sector is concerned. And the theme, reimagining health leadership in, you know, a challenging world with new and emerging diseases. You know, over the last decade, we've recorded Ebola, we've recorded the pandemic, COVID-19 pandemic. And if you go further into, you know, the countries on the African continent, Nigeria, for instance, we have Lassa fever. You talked about meningitis before we came on board. And the important thing, you know, to note is that in a sector where 70%, you know, of the population is female, you know, the leadership is dominated by the male. So how do we ensure that our female health workers gain more leadership positions, you know, in the health sector? That was what the conference was all about. And it was a potpourri of, you know, practitioners in the health sector, funders, implementers, you know, and other medical practitioners. And the organizers provided training on a number of issues, conflict resolution mechanisms, talk about you know, talk about other types of training, you know, reimagining gender gaps and all of that. And the health practitioners were further equipped with, you know, knowledge and experience that they will take back to their countries, you know, and ensure that they're prepared for the opportunities that come that will enhance their visibility.
We definitely missed a lot,
leadership,
Bukola.
you know, in the health sector.
Bukola just summarized 4 days in. How many seconds was that? Like 10 seconds or so? Oh, no, that was a good one. That means you were present.
Yeah, but it's good to have you back. I don't know which of the meals you enjoyed.
Well, mostly continental dishes, because there wasn't enough time to experiment, you know, with Tanzania's, you know, cuisine.
So there's no jollof war?
No jollof war. Not with East Africa. You know, maybe with West Africa, Ghana, Cameroon.
Just to be clear.
What's their own war, actually? What are they? Is it the dance? What exactly are they warring over?
Oh, there's no war, really. If you visit Tanzania, you'll find out that, you know, Nigerian artists are very, very visible in their consciousness, in their radio stations. It's like being home, really.
Wow.
You know,
I think their biggest star should be Diamond.
The streets of Dar es Salaam in their taxis, It's like being back home. You're listening
Fantastic.
to Nigerian music.
So
it was beautiful.
I'm sure that they'll be thinking of collaborating with Nigeria. Diamond, I think, is from Tanzania, Dar es Salaam. I think he has a TV or radio station and all of that.
Oh, so, Diamond Platinum.
Diamond, yeah, Diamond Platinum.
Oh,
yeah.
right. I thought you meant this.
No. I mean the artist, Diamond Platinum, yes.
There you go. And I think we should take a cue from that. There is so much we can export as a nation, and we need to capitalize on that. So fantastic to see what the music industry is doing. But you see things like cassava, where we are the biggest producer in the world. We're not exporting as much. Fine, there's issues with the supply and all of that, but we need to begin to capitalize on those things that have comparative advantage, and so we can make that much deserved and much needed forex, guys.
Yeah. So, let's not forget, to ensure that we bring the message back home that we need more women in female leadership in the health sector. And Tanzania comes as an example with one of the few countries that parades a female African president. And there are remarkable changes in its health sector as it prioritizes health, commodities, and finances. It goes to show that when there is a female manager, in a strategic leadership position, there is a guarantee for better and effective management of health resources. And we hope that more opportunities, can be given to female leaders in Nigeria's health sector, to do same. And, thanks to WILLEN, the association that ensured that Nigerian health commissioners had visibility during that conference.
Are you saying there's no guarantee if it's a man?
There's just evidence to prove that there is better management of resources when there is a female in a strategic position in the health sector.
We're not starting a war this morning.
Yeah, I'm just thinking what Professor Ali Pate will be thinking, like, Bukola, do you want my job or something? But hey, we get the gist. We get the gist.
No, not at all.
There's a lot to talk about, Bukola. What do we have?
What do you have for us from Dar es Salaam?
Not from Dar es Salaam now, but for the morning brief, we have quite a lot this morning. Starting in Oyo State, where residents of Agodi in Ibadan, the state capital, woke up to that disturbing report of an invasion of the state government secretariat by masked men who were stationed at different locations within the area, a situation that was totally unexpected and has sent panic to the residents and commuters along the routes. But we gather that 2 persons have been arrested in connection with that invasion. What does this mean for security in Oyo State, by the way, and indeed other southwest states, considering that the report says those invaders were Yoruba Nation agitators? So it's a conversation worth having. Join us.
That's not all. It's been 10 years. In fact, it was exactly 10 years yesterday when over 200 girls were kidnapped in Chibok. They were aged between 16 and 18. They were kidnapped by the Islamic terrorist group Boko Haram from Government Girls Secondary School at the town of Chibok, of course, in Borno State. And over the decade, a number of the girls have either been released following negotiation or found in forests, or they escaped in places bordering on villages in that state. However, about 90 of them remain in captivity, and for the parents of these remaining girls, time has certainly done little to heal their wounds. It's been like waiting in perpetuity as they continue to keep hope alive for their return. We'll touch base with that story and that issue today on the program. And has Nigeria moved on without these girls? What can be done to make sure that they smile again in Chibok?
Big questions, really. But you also know what they say about the start of a war. They say you know the start, but you can never tell the end of it. And that seems to be the state of things in the Middle East now, which began with the shocking attack by Hamas on southern Israel on October the 7th last year. Amid fears of an escalation of tension in the Middle East, Iran enters the Israel-Gaza war scene with the launch of a system of those wave of missiles and drones towards Israel late Saturday. The question is, what's Iran got to do with it? Well, let's explore the implications together, shall we? Because the coming hours will be vital to not just peace in the Middle East, but peace in the world.
Well, nothing has changed, really. It gets better, so you can also be part of the conversation this morning. So you can post at us on X, on Instagram, on Facebook. Yes, we have brand new social media handles at CTV Morning Brief. If you have not followed us yet, follow us now on all those platforms and start making your contributions on all of these issues that we've lined up. It's been 10 years since Chibok abduction. You can also talk to us about that invasion on the Oyo Government Secretariat, which happened on Saturday, and a myriad of other issues that will be coming your way. It's a bumper package. Yes, it comes with a seat. So stay around. The Morning Brief will be serving you well this morning. Stay with us. Welcome back to the Morning Brief. Time now for top stories, starting with the 10th anniversary of the Chibok abduction. On Sunday, the 14th of April in Chibok, it was more of mixed feelings as former abductees' parents and relatives gathered at the multipurpose hall of the school to pray for the safe return of the remaining 92 girls. At the interfaith service of prayers, speakers expressed mixed reactions following the turnout of events since 2014. Most of the speakers want to know why the remaining Chibok girls are yet to be rescued, while those captured after them have regained their freedom.
A lot of girls has been adopted in this country, you know. But why our own is so exceptional? Up to these days, we are still having a lot of them missing. That's what makes us so much annoyed, because of government give a series of promise that they will get these girls out.
There are so many efforts that my local government are doing to see that these girls are released. So many times we had security meetings, we challenge the militaries. We give them information.
When the incident happened at that 14th April, in fact, we were all shocked. And even though we are still waiting to see how the government and even those that can help to see that this almost 10 years we didn't see our daughter. We are still praying for Allah to, go around the issue to bring them back for us alive.
I've been unhappy since I heard of our coming here, and I've been praying that our children return so I can also rejoice with others.
The structure of the school has been expanded more than before, because currently we are having, in terms of every structure, we have enough. And in terms of the student, the population of students is also increasing, unlike the time when the school resumed. So really, the structure of the school is now fully in operation, and students and teachers are also okay with the system at the place that is Chibok. It's not a boarding school. We are operating on day basis.
Efforts are being made at various levels, from the federal to the state, and especially in the military hierarchy, to make sure that we do all within our powers to make sure that these girls are out.
A difficult one for parents of the abducted girls there. Imagine if their daughters were 14 when they were kidnapped, they would be 24 now, growing up without their daughters. We pray for the safe return continually of the remaining Chibok girls. More on security now. 3 people have been killed after an army patrol vehicle crashed into a commercial tricycle in Bade local government area of Yobe State. An eyewitness told Channels Television that the accident, which occurred at the popular Garin Alkali market, also left 8 people, including the driver of the tricycle and passengers, with various degrees of injuries. The incident had sparked a protest by members of the Association of Commercial Tricycles in some locations, causing a gridlock on the main road leading to Gashua, headquarters of Badi local government area. The Nigerian Army says it is launching an investigation into the alleged involvement of some of its personnel in the death of a hotel manager in Umuahia, Abia State. A statement by the Director of Army Public Relations, Major General Onyema Nwachukwu, says the Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Taoreed Lagbaja, has ordered a comprehensive investigation to ascertain the facts and bring to book anyone found culpable, while extending its condolences to the families of the deceased hotel manager, Mr. James Achimugu, and the Nigeria Air Force officer Cadet Emmanuel Chidiebere. The Nigerian Army assures the public that every effort will be made to ensure that justice is served. Away from security matters now, the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, says it has discovered other fraudulent dealings involving COVID-19 funds, World Bank loan, and the Abacha recovered loot at the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs. The Commission also denied reports that it has cleared some persons said to be involved in financial misappropriations at the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development. In a statement by the EFCC spokesperson, Dele Oyewale, tagged "Setting the Record Straight" on investigations of Humanitarian Ministry, the anti-graft agency maintains that investigations are still ongoing and the Commission has so far recovered 32.7 billion naira and $445,000 from the ministry. The statement reads, in part, discrete investigations by the EFCC have opened other fraudulent dealings involving COVID-19 funds, the World Bank loan, Abacha recovered loot released to the ministry by the federal government to execute its poverty alleviation mandate. And to politics now, the governor of Ondo State, Mr. Lucky Aiyedatiwa, is not mincing words about his aspirations for re-election and has asserted that there is no vacancy to be filled at the Alagbaka government house. The governor, who was speaking during a tour of local government areas in the state ahead of his party's governorship primary, says he has all it takes to step into the shoes of his late boss, Olurotimi Akeredolu. Governor Aiyedatiwa, who says he will build on the reforms brought into governance by the late governor, also expressed optimism that he will clinch the party's ticket at the primary.
I've never seen this kind of love and support, but since this is the second local government, I'm sure other local government will repeat the same thing. I represented here unit leaders and men, the women, the men, the youth, all of them are here to receive me, to pledge their support. Before now, about a month and a half ago, they did a similar thing by mobilizing themselves to endorse me to continue as governor of Ondo State. But today they've all come out on this local government tour to express the same openly.
More politics now, and this time it's in Edo State, where a two-term former member of the Senate representing Edo South Senatorial District has switched allegiance from the People's Democratic Party to the All Progressives Congress ahead of the Edo 2024 governorship election. Top leaders of the party, including Senator Adams Oshiomhole and the party's state executive, who were on ground to welcome Senator Orogide back into the party, acknowledged his weight in the political arena. The former chairman, Public Accounts Committee in the Senate, was at the event handed the responsibility of heading the party's campaign organization for the September 21 governorship election.
I'm coming back to the APC today after 13 years and 3 months of sojourn in the PDP. The APC, as ACD, as AC, as ACN, I'm very proud to say that I'm a foundation member of this party. But today, the good Lord and our able party leaders so have decided to come back to the fold of mature politicians. I want to say that my decision to come back is to come and help build this party. I help enthrone Monday Okpebholo and Dennis Idaos as governor and deputy governor.
I will begin by apologizing publicly here and now. State Chairman I have personal apology to make to Distinguished Senator Matthew Orohidi. There is nothing shameful about making mistakes. It only becomes shameful if you have arrogance such that you are unable to own up to your mistake. Now, why am I apologizing? By the time I was sworn in as the governor of this state, we realized that we must keep the promises that we made. Unfortunately, like every human, I think the devil played his part. And I was misadvised. I am not going to blame those who misadvised me, but I accept the responsibility that I took the decision to support Uzameri. And when I did, I later realized it. The latest Okpa of blessed memory told me, "My son, you've made a mistake."
Into other stories now, practitioners in the aviation sector who have been dodging their requisite trainings and certifications and thereby putting the flying public at risk have drawn the ire of the federal government. And this is as the Minister of Aviation, Mr. Festus Keyamo, says government is set to arrest and prosecute such aviation personnel. Mr. Keyamo told Channels Television that the federal government has obtained credible information about such people and will not hesitate to go after them.
People now come and take license from us to say, I have just bought a private jet. I want to be using it for my business or to fly my friends and my family. And we give them very low fee, pay this. The moment you give them, they are carrying passengers all over Nigeria, doing 6 or 8 flights a day. And nobody's checking them. Before I came, nobody. There's a notice to them on camera. It's a notice. I am coming for them. I am coming for them. Because the president has given us marching orders. We're not going to allow this to happen. First of all, in terms of the regulation, tracking them, making sure passengers are safe that you carry, regulating them and all that is low. Secondly, you are cheating the federal government. It's economic sabotage. It's economic sabotage. And I'm not going to allow that to happen. So people who are even my friends or friends of Mr. President or friends, we are going to come hard on all of them. And perhaps ground all their planes, withdraw their licenses, come very hard on them. We're not going to allow that to happen. And I'm about to do something on that. And guess what? I'm tying it down to the issue of training and retraining, because it is in most of these private aircraft you now see those people who are not gone for their normal routine training. They are the ones flying them. And we have complicity within the system. People who are supposed to check them, who are supposed to carry out sting operations on them, they are actually, that's their pot of soup.
The Socioeconomic Rights and Accountability Project, SERAP, has asked President Bola Tinubu to direct appropriate ministries, departments and agencies to provide the organization with copies of the loan agreements obtained by the governments of former Presidents Olusegun Obasanjo, Umaru Musa Yar'Adua, Goodluck Jonathan and Muhammadu Buhari. SERAP is also seeking the spending details of any such loans, as well as the interest and other payments so far made on the loans. The organization wants the president to establish an independent audit on the spending of the loans obtained by the governments of the former presidents and make public the findings of any such audits. And now, outside our shores, senior administration officials from the White House have warned Israel, saying the U.S. will not participate in any retaliatory strikes on Iran. Over 300 drones and missiles were fired at Israel overnight, which Iran said was in response to an April 1st strike on its consulate in Syria. Almost all weapons were shot down by Israel, U.S. and allied forces before they reached their targets. Speaking to reporters on Sunday, a senior administration official said Mr. Biden told Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to think very carefully and strategically about how his forces reply to the unprecedented action that the first direct attack by Iran on the country. And in sports, Bayern Leverkusen lifted the Bundesliga title for the first time in their 120-year history on Sunday. A 5-0 victory over Werder Bremen, breaking Bayern Munich's 11-year stranglehold on the German top flight. Xabi Alonso's Leverkusen knew victory would secure the title with 5 games to spare, but there were no signs of nerves in a dominant performance. A hat-trick from Florian Wirtz and goals from Victor Boniface and Granit Xhaka extended their unbeaten run to a stunning 43 games in all competitions. A hearty congratulations to Bayern Leverkusen. So what are some of your own thoughts to these big stories making the headlines this morning, be it the Oyo invasion, the invasion of the Oyo government house, or even the story from Israel following the continuing Israel-Hamas war with the entry of Iran? Let's have some of your thoughts to these stories. And we're reviewing some of the subjects that you've been commenting on over the weekend. Jeffrey joins me now for a review of your thoughts.
Well, there's a lot. It's always happening in the world. And of greater concern to everyone out there is the issue of Iran and Israel. And the prayer is that it shouldn't escalate beyond what it is right now. We've been worried about this for a long time, since October 7, when the Hamas launched that attack on Israel. And this particular attack by Iran, which was in response to the attack on their embassy in Damascus in Syria, was literally almost unprecedented. 300 drones and missiles struck. But the Iron Dome did its work. According to Israel, 99% of it was intercepted. But as you said, the American government is saying, look, this is not as simple as you're looking at it. Benjamin Netanyahu, who is the prime minister, you have to be cautious in any retaliatory attack. In fact, we're not on board for this, because the problem is everybody's worried about a wider conflict. So do not say I live in Nigeria or in Africa. Things can escalate really fast, and we don't want a third world war. That's why everybody has been talking to all parties to keep calm. As a matter of fact, there are supposed to be some talks between Israel and Hamas in terms of negotiation to cease fire, release hostages and all of that. So that's why it's quite important that we're all on board this. So if you know how to post an X, don't call for war. I like the way Trump puts it. It says, I just want people to stop dying. People are already dying in Ukraine, over 32,000 or so in Gaza, a third of them children and all of that. So the human casualty is becoming too much.
Costlier than the war.
So it's not just working for everyone. So, but let's find out what people are saying on X. Let's come back to Nigeria and away from the war that's going on in Israel, Iran and all of that. Let's talk about aviation fuel price crash as the Dangote refinery begins supply in Naira, according to this. Now, Niger for sure says this is a very good news, but what about PMS? I hope the price will go back to 188 Naira per liter. We are eagerly waiting for the price of PMS to crash. I don't know what to respond to.
That would indeed be historic, really, wouldn't it?
It would be beautiful to see that, but...
And to also see a crash in the price of commodities as well, even services. Well, that will be worth it all the way. But will this lead to a reduction in a further reduction in the price of ticket fares? That's, something to watch out for in the coming days. Now, this next one is from Tony Isi, who says, we await it crashing for real and thereby affecting the airfares that has been strangling Nigerians for a while now.
The airfares are not smiling. And,
not at all.
But that just reminds me of this air peace and the international airlines war. But let's not go there today.
Let's not go there.
Okay, we've read this one. This should be from, wow, Animal World. That's how you call yourself. Wow, this is a great news for the aviation industry. I'm excited to see how the lower fuel prices will impact air travel in the future. We travel a lot in Nigeria. London, the US, those are major destinations, and Dubai at some point.
Yeah, for all of those who jackpot, who come home once in a while. So the Nigerian airspace is really a very vibrant one.
All right, so maybe we'll move to the next one that has to do with the proposal of Labour proposes a 615,000 minimum wage demand.
Not out of place, if you ask me.
No, not at all.
Certainly not.
Not out of place.
Because of the erosion of incomes.
So Ben Samuel has responded, says, anyway, you can propose anything, but the truth is that Nigeria can afford to pay 100K as minimum wage, or not the federal government. Everything is rising except wages. Sad.
Well, this one is from AKA, I believe, and it's very brief. It says, make them no lie. They shouldn't lie. If they increase minimum wage to 615K monthly for the economy, fear no go catch them. Well, let's have some support for Labour. Shouldn't we, Jeffrey?
Well, Labour had said 1 million, and they're now saying 615,000, but it's a negotiation, so they are going to see how they would that bargaining chip they put forward, the government will say what they can afford, and they'll come to a point. But let's see where it lands, whether in the middle or somewhere just below 600. But it would be beautiful to see our civil servants, a messenger earning, say, 200, 300, 400,000. That would be lovely.
You know what they say, if you shoot at the stars, you land somewhere on the moon. So let them raise it and see where the middle ground will eventually fall.
Absolutely. So we have a lot to talk about today. We have a big lineup for you. We told you about that at the very beginning of the program. But let's get to that first conversation for the day. We'll be right back. Join us again.
Well, shocking scenes we saw coming out of Ibadan, the Oyo State capital. Looked like a scene from a movie or from a video game. Gunshots and people arrested. What happened? It was an attack on the state's Secretariat, an attack on the assembly complex. It was an attack as well on the seat of government in Oyo State. A lot of people shocked. But let's get you updates on what exactly is playing out in Oyo State. And we're joined this morning by Mr. Fatai Owushini, Special Advisor to the Oyo State Governor on Security Matters. He's also former Commissioner of Police in Lagos and Benue States. Joins us via Zoom this morning. Good morning, Mr. Owushini. Thank you for joining us on the Morning Brief.
Good morning to you, and good morning, viewers at home.
Well, it's just hard to sort of wrap our head around what we saw playing out in Oyo State. Some thought, was this a movie? Was this a script being played out? Is this real? We saw a woman amongst those who were arrested, some of them with charms and the rest. So for those who are probably just waking up and seeing this news and they're like, wait, what? What is going on? Can you just give us a quick explainer of what happened over the weekend in Oyo State, which we know for peace and tranquility?
What happened is what everyone had seen. That some miscreants just put themselves together under the guise or the auspices that they are warriors of Yoruba nation. But at the same time, if you followed the trend in Nigeria, you have secessionist agitations in the country. The Boko Haram issue and ISWAP thing is there, about wanting to claim territory. You have the hype up in the southeast, And of course, it's not the first time that we've been hearing of Odua movement agitation and Yoruba nation. And why Ibadan? Ibadan is the epicenter of the Southwest. The Ibadan Secretariat has its historical background. The State House of Assembly, which used to be the Western State House of Assembly, is also historical. So that those miscreants had used that place as a launching pad, probably for analysts and, of course, security analysts. It could be explained, but like I said, I would still say, oh, these are miscreants that I had indicated before. That seems to be on some kind of cheap drugs. And, just like some movements that they will indoctrinate them, call it hypnotism and all those things. And they think they can play a kind of stunt and get recognition. So that's just it. We woke up to see them. And of course, because they've been on their track, it was easy to dislodge them when they started the madness.
Well, I'm not sure of how to describe that, but I know you use the word miscreants. But when we look at the recovery they made, it's not something to easily dismiss. I have the record from the police: 291 live cartridges, 3 pump action, expanded cartridges, 69 cutlasses, bulletproof vest, and all of these things. And one wonders, despite how formidable that area is, how come they were able to penetrate and even hoist their flag at some point?
Look, like I said, for security analysts, when you have such movements of people that have been indoctrinated, liken it to Guyana tragedy, liken it to the Jesu Oyinbo crisis. These are people, it's like a movement that would have been promised heaven and all those things. From a little interrogation, we've had some of them saying, look, there's a proclamation that a Yoruba nation has gotten independence. Our people are not getting jobs. Once we take over power, we give our people jobs. And it's fun that some of them are some occupational groups, carpenter and whatever, bricklayers that have been told, you guys go and be meeting. Once you are able to achieve the rundown of the system, you can be sure all of you will be given work. And in such kind of movement, there is a little bit of organization. They must have been putting themselves together and recognizing the fact that we must own up to it, that in the country, there's proliferation of different armed groups, some even under the guise that they are doing private security guards. So it's a accumulation of what has been happening in the country that has not been checked. But this time around, a kind of a mistake was made. Yes, they came in, they entered the Secretariat, and they were doing what they wanted to do, maybe under the influence of some cheap charm givers that had said, oh, maybe they won't see you when you are doing what you're doing. Yes, they came in there, they were doing what they were doing, and some of those things failed them. And I also mentioned they were being tricked as they were moving. So it was easy to quickly dislodge them. And after that, so many other things are taking place. Because if you've been watching the viral video that has been going on of somebody saying, oh, a proclamation had been made, and some people issuing threat order, you will look at them as some people that probably need psychiatric examination. Such things, sometimes you have them when people, like Karl Marx would say, religion is the opium of the people. When people have been promised paradise to say, look, go and do this, you can still expect more. because the people that have made promise to them had told them that it's salvation. It is you going to get work and live very well. So even if they arrest thousands, some people will still come out because they believe and they've really been indoctrinated to say that, it's salvation for you. So many other things that happened before then. Areas where were discovered to be their cells, where they've been doing things, have been posted. More recoveries have been made. More revelations had come out. And I think it's something that can easily be put, controlled. And of course, it will serve as a lesson. You are likely to have more. In Yoruba land, we started with having OPC and all those things. It's been there. And we have a country with no institutional memory. Some governments have declared some of these organizations as banned under the law, but they still operate. People in politics and the government still hobnob with them. So when you have such a situation where there is no continuity of enforcing and keeping to, policy and laws that have been made, you will have all sort of people putting themselves together under different name and different agitations.
So much to follow up on, sir, but let me quickly take a second look at Jeffrey's question as a follow-up. It would seem like, security operatives dropped the ball because these invaders gained access into the Secretariat. That's on the one hand. Now, let's take a second look at some of the weapons found with the agitators: pump action, cartridges, cutlasses, 5 bulletproof vests, 6 pairs of boots, megaphones. This suggests a huge amount of preparation had gone into this, and perhaps recruitment, considering the number of people that were said to have been found among the invaders. So there's a failure of response on the first hand, immediate response, and on the second hand, failure of intelligence. How come this had been brewing in Ibadan, the Oyo State capital, over time, and it wasn't nipped in the bud before this happened?
Let me tell you this, and we have to be sincere. When you talk of failure of intelligence, agreed, not just in Oyo State or the Southwest, all over the country. And when you talk of intelligence, intelligence is not just left in the hands of security personnel. There is what is called HIMINT, human intelligence. And when you don't have support of the people who will say something and say something, you will have such failure. And an explanation can also be given to that, where there's lack of confidence and when there is mistrust between the governed and the people that are governing them. It is just a given. When you now talk of response, I can tell you that the response was swift enough because information was gotten that, a kind of movement is noticed in Ibadan. And when you get intelligence reports like that, you also want to be careful as to when and how you respond. You want to probably check how many number of people are we dealing with? How can we probably get them in an enclosure? I had also mentioned there's proliferation of all sort of militia group in the country. It's not limited to the Southwest. You've been seeing what is happening in the Southeast, in the Northwest, and all those things. It's just that the Southwest had been able to control this. Ibadan, why Ibadan? You know how large Ibadan is. You know what Ibadan is to the Southwest. So you have different groups, and I had mentioned, even under the guys that they are doing private security guards, infiltration of weapon. It is not just about the Southwest or your state alone. There's so many weapons. You see all the people that are in the so-called big men in Nigeria. legitimate weapon and illegitimate weapon. We've been a little bit careless in the country. So when you have such a situation, you will continue to have this. And I'd also mention, when you have soldiers of unemployed people, it is easy to hypnotize people. It is easy to promise them heaven and earth. And it is easy to mobilize jobless people who had been promised to say, just go and do this. That is why you have suicide bombers. Yes, very unusual in a place like Ibadan and Oyo State. But if you look at the expanse of Oyo State alone is all the 6 states in the southeast combined. Oyo State is bigger. So when you have such a territory, you will have different kind of things.
Right.
And of course, the response that came in, it's like they were waiting for them. It was massive and it was immediate as of the time it happened. And that was why it was easy to dislodge them. And I had also mentioned so many other things that happened after that. We've been able to get information as to, okay, this is how it started. More arrests have been made. More materials have been uncovered, and it will continue, and they can easily be suppressed.
Well, Mr. Washini, I imagine that you would understand why a lot of people are apprehensive. They saw how Boko Haram started and what it spiraled into. I mean, we're marking 10 years since the abduction of Chibok girls, and we've seen more abductions and killings since then. We know how IPOB started in the ESN and how it's even spiraled out of control. So a lot of people are worried and thinking, is this a start of something even worse? I know you've seen some of those videos, different individuals declaring sovereignty, calling it the Democratic Republic of the Yoruba. The Yoruba nation here in Nigeria has dissociated themselves from that group. But seeing those videos, they're shocking, naturally, because a lot of people, as I said, didn't see this coming. So I'd like you to speak to us about the mindset of Governor Makinde and the next line of action, really, because all of the attention on Oyo State, which I've said is known for peace, is not really good.
His Excellency has continued to be on top of the situation. Call it like a war room. The situation room has been created where the security heads have been interacting with the governor. It appears shocking, but don't let us deceive ourselves. Even when OPC started, it was worse in Lagos and in some other places. And more have been coming out. This is not the first time you will hear about this Yoruba Nation thing, Odua movement and all those things. And some other splinter groups that have been coming out in the southwest. Ibadan is the epicenter. We've been controlling it. We've been, managing the thing until these people came out. And what makes a difference in this one is probably from what we've seen on the viral video. We've made a proclamation. Go ahead and take your rightful leadership and all those things. And preliminary interrogations are also giving some insight as to what could have, motivated these people. And in security, when you have such a thing, what you do first is to do a lesson learned. And the state has been doing that. His Excellency Governor Seyi Makinde has continued to meet with all the security heads on a daily basis when it becomes necessary to call a quick one to say, oh, we've heard that these people even have a training camp somewhere. Oh, how much of intelligence do we have from there? Can we quickly move? We continue to do what we're doing. We've learned lessons. Nigeria, not just Oyo State, we have that. Because when you are saying that, some people moved into a school in the daytime and took 200 students away. And you see, it's all over. We just need to rejig our security architecture. We need to engage more with the people. If you have drones, if you have CCTV camera, you cannot play down on human intelligence. And that is why whenever and when we are ready to solve the security crisis in the country, we must get the grassroots involved. We must get our traditional rulers involved. We must get landlords involved who rent houses out to these people. Human intelligence is key when you talk of intelligence and you're solving security problems. So we've continued to engage with the people in Oyo State. That is why here too, apart from Motekum, that is a grassroots thing, we've continued to engage with our people to say that you are part of it. The philosophy behind modern policing is the police are the people are the police. We must awaken the consciousness of the people. The country is one of the country that will rank least when it comes to security consciousness, when it comes to people listening to security advice. Everybody is looking for what to eat, how to earn a living. So as far as they are concerned, it's the least of their problem. Once they can go out and earn a living, not until when it affects them that they come out. So how do we awaken the consciousness of our people to say that you are involved? You don't know who is going to be the next target, who is going to be the next victim. We continue to work on that. We've been working on that for some time. You'll find out that for us in Oyo State, it has been that things are becoming more and more peaceful because of the engagement we do. Maybe we need to redouble our engagement with the people, which we are embarking on. We redouble our activities to make sure that we carry the people along with what we do. And I believe with that, as you get more and more people, consciousness awakening. Some people will still do it. I've mentioned Guyana tragedy. Even when people are dying, people are still putting money. This Igbo was doing what he was doing. Some people will also say, oh, a jihad is about going into martyrdom. So when you have all sorts of things like that, and a jobless soldier of people, you will have people who will get indoctrinated. Even if you ask them to come and drink acid, they will drink acid to go into martyrdom. So it is not, as per security analysis, it is nothing really new.
Mr. Oshani, you described with your own words, miscreants, and some of these people are the lower ebb of the society in terms of their level of income. So I don't think they are the problem. How far is the Makinde administration ready to go in collaboration with the federal government to go after the sponsors of these people? Because all the time we see these foot soldiers, they're not really the problem. They are just foot soldiers. They get a command from source. There are people that are driving them. And we've always looked at the federal government, the state government, and the people in authority to go after the big guns. They never get them. Are you ready to do that? Is the government of Seyi Makinde ready to get the people behind them?
I can assure you it is ongoing. On a need-to-know basis, information will be given out. Information has been gotten. Most of those people that are making those viral videos are not even in this country, and in collaboration with the federal government. I'm aware that the executive governor of Oyo State, His Excellency, had briefed the president, and where we need collaboration with the larger security system at the federal level, it will come in, and it is ongoing. That is why I say when you do things like this, it is not everything you come out. On a need-to-know basis, they're working on that. More revelations have been made. More things have been uncovered since that incident, and they are going after all of them. And I had mentioned to you, you know what Oyo State is all about. We've had actors that had lived larger than life, and if we've been able to have a kind of interaction with them, some of them either tamed, or some of them have been want to say, look, you can't turn this place, you can't use Ibadan as a launch pad to come and say you are doing another HISWAP or another hypo. You should know that the state somehow has a capacity, to get around this, and we are not relenting. We are doing that, and there's so many things have been happening before now that is not out to the public. So we continue to do what we do covertly to ensure that these people are tamed and that they don't use this place as a launch pad. Why I said miscreants on cheap drugs, if you listen to some of the things that you are saying, how do you really go around people saying, oh, if you get into the Secretariat in Ibadan, we've liberated the whole of Yoruba land. You still have some other states in the southwest. So you will see the incomprehensible nature of the way they talk and all those things, like some people that are high on certain things. We will not relent. We've, sit down. When things happen like that, you sit down, you do a lesson learned. Where are the gaps? What did we do right? What have we not done right? And where it requires that collaboration should be made with neighboring states, which we are already doing. We have also highlighted them. Where it requires collaboration should be made with the federal level, which the security agencies are doing. Some of the information that are gotten by the military is being analyzed at a federal level. The DSS is doing their own. The police is also on top of what they are doing with regards to making sure that information that are being uncovered are not just left in Oyo State. They are being thrown out. And of course, if it requires that they should even track some people to outside the country, we will do that, and will not relent on that.
And when you answer this way, it suggests to me that perhaps it's some sort of confirmation of some of the things that you perhaps insinuated earlier on when you say that sometimes some of these agitators or politicians are seen hobnobbing with the agitators. And you also said something about, I'm trying to remember some of your words now, that politicians are identified with, some of these weapons. So when you talk about Ibadan not being a launch pad for another type of ISWAP, is it a confirmation of your meaning about politicians being identified with some of these agitators?
You are in the media. Some of the things I said are not new. You know what happens in this country. You know the way we've been a little bit not too careful with our intelligence, not too being careful with the way we handle our security. Give it to the Southwest. The Southwest had remained relatively calm. Or your state has invested so much on security infrastructure. And of course, even with regards to breaching the gap in unemployment rate, that is why the state had invested so much in agriculture as well, to get the jobless people into agriculture. So all these things, you have to do them together. You can't leave one aspect and say you are facing this. For you to have adequate security, you must also look at unemployment, the joblessness, the country, and how to get our people productively engaged. And in security, you cannot say 100%. If you are not tested, you will not know where you have gaps. All nations of the world, it's when you are tested that you will sit down. The thing there is that it allows you to sit down and know where you have gaps, and then you can address those gaps. That is what they call lessons learned. That is what they call institutional memory.
Well, we understand that other southwestern states have also on high alert for a possibility. So we'll, of course, be watching to see. But just quickly as we wind down, can we confirm whether or not the lady who appeared in that video, I think her name, Mojupe Onitiri Abiola, and the other man, have they been declared wanted?
Look, you first need to process what those people are doing. The lady that you're talking of, her name is not new in Nigeria. She used to live in Lagos. You've heard of some other names of some people who are outside this country, just like that fellow who used to, give instruction to the people in the Southeast. So all these things that are unveiling are not new. They are things that we've been living with, but they are coming up to now exert themselves. So, and like I said, when you are handling things like this on a needs-to-know basis, information that will be given out will be given. And you also don't have to open your mouth too loud to say, oh, we are closer to these people. There is someone in Ibadan here who is also a lady, who has a semblance of that person on the video. Things that happened within that period. Houses have been busted. You know, information, vital information that could lead to getting to the root of things have been gotten. And of course, we make sure that we guard those information properly so that we can use them as evidential value and to get to the root and to the bottom and those people
Mr.
that are
Osheni. I totally understand. We just wanted to confirm because there had been that call to declare her wanted. We'll be speaking with former Commissioner of Police in Lagos, Benue State, now Special Advisor to Oyo State Governor on Security Matters, Mr. Fatai Owesheni. Of course, we'll be following up on this one. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
We'll take a moment now on the show, and when we return, there's another big issue on the firm burner. It's a packed show, absolutely. Stay with us till the morning brief.
Welcome back to the program. And, you know, reflecting on that conversation that we just had with Mr. Owesheni, one of the consequences of that kind of agitation by non-state actors, if unchecked, is banditry, kidnapping, you know, and all of the other crimes related in that mix, which is where Northeast Nigeria probably started off from when you consider Boko Haram insurgency in the last decade or more, you know, which saw the kidnap of 276 Chibok girls in 2014, April 14, just about 10 years ago today. While, you know, over 100 of those girls have returned, 92 are still outstanding. And so in that community that has become famous globally as a result of that abduction, parents, family members are still asking questions why the 92 girls have not returned home. And we are going to touch base with that as we have joining us a member of the Bring Back Our Girls movement and Executive Director Invictus Africa, Buki Shonibare, who joins us from our Abuja studio. Welcome to the program, Ms. Shonibare.
Thank you for having me.
Now, you were a very prominent voice and figure of the Bring Back Our Girls movement over a decade ago. When you walked down memory lane, did you ever envisage that 10 years down the line, we would still be having this conversation about 92 girls still outstanding?
No, we never envisaged that we were even going to commemorate 10 years. I recall when we had that first march on April 30th of 2014. And after marching in the rain, it was raining cat and dog on that day. And we marched to the National Assembly. And from the National Assembly, we came back to the Unity Fountain. And we deliberated whether we wanted to just stay or whether we wanted to continue, or we should just go off since we've had a march. Media had covered it. And on that day, we all decided that it would be foolhardy for us to just, go back home and not do anything. So we decided to come back the next day. And when we came back the next day, which was actually on May 1st of 2014, a public holiday, so it gave us the opportunity for us to have more people together. And on that day, we were asking ourselves, what do we do next? But we asked ourselves one question, that how long do we think this will last so that it helps us to know how best to strategize? We never thought that we would do 1 year. And I remember also, and I was also on Channels TV on that day, on the 30th day of abduction. That was 1 month of abduction. And this same question was asked. We didn't think we would do 1 month. But unfortunately, we're having to commemorate 10 years. In that 10 years, over 1,754 school-age children of primary and secondary school have been abducted in 20 incidents of abductions. When you expand that to tertiary institutions, we've seen, at least 38 abduction and close to 2,000 abduction of school-age children. We've seen more heightened attacks, especially on educational facilities, on educational personnel. 48 parents of the Chibok girls have died. Many of them are sick. One, Mr. Ayuba Alamsin, is one of the Chibok girls' parents. He has completely lost his sight. And, just so many things is happening. So to that question that you asked, we didn't think that we'll be doing 10 years of commemorative activities of the abduction of the Chibok girls.
It's difficult to put oneself in the position of perpetual hope. And I know that perhaps your group has been having conversation with the parents of those who are still expecting that their children will be back someday. I'm talking about the over 90 students that are still not there. We understand some have died through sickness, snake bites and hunger, so many reasons. When you have a conversation with them, what are they telling you people? What are they telling the group? Are they still hopeful? Have they been fatigued? What is it that is going through their mind? Maybe you can share with Nigerians, because it appears 10 years after, a lot of us have moved on, which is not supposed to be. Our children, over 90 of them, are still held back in captivity.
What are they saying? They are saying that they want their children back. They are saying that are their children alive? They are asking questions. They want to know where their children are. Would they still come back? And the fact that it is still an open wound, there is no acknowledgement, for instance, from this current administration of that particular situation. There is no official acknowledgement that we still have 90-something of the girls still in abduction. There is no commitment that has been made. If not for these 10 years commemorative activities, we would almost not see anything on the media. The last time anything came up was on August 14, 2023, when we had another Chibok girl escape. And so the parents are asking, where are our girls? Are they still coming back? Somebody used the word, are you guys giving these people false hope? Somebody said that to me yesterday. And I said, so long as there is no official statement as to the number of girls that have died, some of the Chibok girls that have returned have come back to say, 18 of the girls have died. Some have, another journalist has said 20-something of the girls have died. But the federal government of Nigeria, that bears the primary responsibility and duty to communicate the official position, has not said anything. And so we cannot, based on hearsay, at best, tell the parents that, oh, your child have died, your child is still alive. And so they are asking questions. And the same way they are asking questions, Nigerians are also asking questions. That where are the Chibok girls? Nigerians are also asking questions regarding Leah Sharibu. Nigerians are asking questions regarding the missing persons. If you recall that in 2014, we also started advocating for the establishment of a missing persons register in Nigeria. We at Bring Back Our Girls actually commenced that particular advocacy. We had meetings at the National Human Rights Commission. They were mandated, but funding was not provided, and that National Missing Persons Register was never operationalized. We also have been seeing questions regarding communication. 16 of the girls that came back are under the care of the Borno state government. Parents are asking, have they gone to school? Have they graduated? What are they doing? What sort of support are they getting? Are they getting psychosocial support, medical support? What's the current situation? So even parents of some of the girls that have come back are asking questions, including parents of the girls that are yet to be returned.
The case of the Chibok girls is it's just like a pictorial representation, except that it's more than just a picture, it's something real of what has now been turned to a reality, consistent reality in Nigeria. Ever since that abduction, over 1,400 children have been kidnapped, more than ×5. And people have been asking, do we then have to get groups to say, okay, bring back Chibok girls, bring back these ones? Thankfully, a lot of them have been released, but it looks like that scourge of kidnapping has not ended so far. And you will forgive the Nigerian society having to deal with this week in, week out. Some weeks ago, it was Kuriga, and then some students in Taraba were kidnapped. So even for the Nigerian people, you can imagine their mental state, waking up to news of kidnappings of children time and again. I don't know if we would celebrate another 10 years after this. I pray that will not be the case, really. But, you can never put anything past, life itself. But I'd like you to speak to something in particular. We've had successive governments. The Buhari government campaigned on that. The Tinubu government is here also dealing with another situation in its hands. And we've seen the parents write out the names of those girls. They wrote them out, 92 of them on a full scarf sheet, just to put it out there that we have not forgotten. If there's one thing you want to speak to the Tinubu government about, the Chibok girls and perhaps others, what would it be this morning?
If there is one thing, it will be that the Bola Ahmed Tinubu administration should first of all acknowledge that we have 90-something Chibok girls that are still in abduction, and that they have also taken it up as a duty and as a responsibility to bring them back. We always use Section 14, subsection 2B, to put on the table the fact that the primary purpose of any government shall be the security and the welfare of the people. We failed them in security. The fact that the abduction took place in the first place is a failure on security. And we must not continue to fail them in regards to welfare, which is the second limb of that particular provision. So if there is one thing I would like to tell the Bola Ahmed Tinubu government, it is that please do everything possible, not only to acknowledge that the Chibok girls are still missing, Leah Sharibu is still missing, many more are still missing, but make an official commitment that you are going to do everything possible to make sure that these girls come back. Another thing that I believe the Tinubu government must do is reopen the communication line with the parents of the Chibok girls. They have an association, they have a Kibaku Area Development Association, that's the CADA, is headed by Mr. Dauda Ilya. The parents of the Chibok girls come together under that umbrella. Please open communication lines with them, get them together and discuss with them, give them updates as to what is going on. Even updates that are considered to be too sensitive to be told to all Nigerians can be told to the parents so that they at least know the status of what is going on. And then finally is to say to the Bola Ahmed Tinubu government, Nigeria is party to the Safe School Declaration. From that, Nigeria came up with the Safe School Initiative. It set a minimum threshold, a minimum standard of security and safety of schools. The abductions that we have seen in the last 10 years shows that we have not learned lessons from the unprecedented abduction of the Chibok girls. It also shows that schools are still not safe, that school children are not safe, that school personnel are not safe. So my last admonition to the Bola Ahmed Tinubu administration would be, please make sure that we bring back on the table the issue of the Safe School Initiative. It says that schools must have, for instance, certain perimeter fencing. It says that there must be, training of school personnel and even the children themselves on how to respond in case there is any, prospective abduction. It also, states some form of kind of security and safety architecture that should be in every educational institution in Nigeria so that we can prevent a reoccurrence of Chibok girls abduction. And the Sambo report, also states those who were found wanting. That report should not be swept under the carpet. That's just one out of many reports that I believe that the Tinubu government can make public and also use as implementation tool. Over 1.4 billion naira has been allocated, has been donated to the issue of Chibok girls. What has happened to that? The Tinubu government can also open up the chapter of accountability to make sure, that what is going on with that money, what's the state of that money? Has the money been eaten up, or is the money still there? What is the money being used for? The 16 girls that are under the care of the Borno State governor, the parents also want to know. The Tinubu government can also open up that chapter for us to be able to know what is going on. So there is a whole lot that is on the table that even though the girls were not abducted under the Tinubu government, but Section 40, subsection 2B did not say the primary purpose of an administration will be the security and the welfare of the people. It says the primary purpose of a government. So it doesn't matter who is in power. And so I'm hoping that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu will heed to this call and consider the 10 years of the abduction of the Chibok girls and not wait for when another Chibok girl escapes or is found before action is taken.
Some of the things that you have said are quite telling, about even questions asked by parents of the girls who have returned about the welfare of the girls. 48 parents who have died, one who has gone blind. It's revealing about the state of things in Chibok itself, and we can also remember the commitment made by the former administration to the education of some of the girls who were returned. So that brings me to this question: what is the state of things in Chibok itself, the state of governance in Chibok? One would have thought that, following that incident, there would at least be a compensation for the people for improvement in the state of things. So what's the state of governance in Chibok itself?
From what we're getting from the parents, let me start with Mr. Yuba Alamsin, whom I mentioned that is one that have gone completely blind. And I mentioned that within the context of the fact that that's an example of a Chibok parent that the federal government can bring under its welfare and care for him. But that's one out of many parents. There are parents who are still dealing with psychological trauma, traumatic experiences, flashbacks, and mental related issues, which if nothing is done, we are going to add them to the 48 that have died. And so it is an opportunity for us to bring that up. But back to the question you asked regarding what's going on in Chibok. Chibok right now, of course, April, and not just April, every day is a reminder of the fact that their girls are still missing. So in relation to governance in Chibok, there is the issue of the protection of Section 18 right to education of their children. We must not be a nation that puts a people, such as the Chibok people and many other people in hotspot situations, that put them in a situation where they have to make a choice between educating their children, or keeping them alive. I recall one of those times when I was in Chibok, and I met one of the parents, and he was unwilling to talk to me. And when he eventually talked, he was really crying as a man. And he said to me, it is educated people like you that said we should send our girls to school. Now we have sent our girls to school. Where is my daughter? You know, how do you answer such questions? So governance in Chibok right now is one where we have failed them in relation to what Chibok is now known for, the abduction of their girls. But even the education of children generally, is that place still safe? Is the school where the girls were abducted, is it in a good state for girls and even children generally to keep going to school? How about the communication within a social contract principle or doctrine where the government continues to communicate with the people? This is a group of people that we have failed, and we must keep communicating with them. So governance generally for them in Chibok is governance in relation to the things that concern them. One of the things that we said at the beginning of the campaign was that people that are recognized as government are the people who meet the needs of the people. Then the Chibok people will always tell them, we see you bring back our girls as the government because you are the one communicating with us, you are the one attending to our needs, you are the one telling us what is happening. But we are not the government. We're not the ones that have been given the mandate, the resources, the power, the constitutional mandate to be able to, see to their security and welfare. And so the government's responsibility must go back to where it belongs. And so that's what the Chibok people are expecting. And I'm hoping that this sad commemoration of 10 years will be an opportunity for this government to take up this issue again and make sure that the right thing is done.
There's another part that is quite sad, and I want you to speak to it. You've been at the vanguard of this with your group, but till today, I was looking at the tweet of one of the people who were leaders of the Bring Back Our Girls movement, and people are still saying it was a hoax, it was a scam, it never happened, it was meant to oust Jonathan. How does it feel to experience this, travel to see parents? You've seen this thing firsthand, almost 50 parents have died, and people are still saying it never happened.
I mean, it's till date, there are people who still believe that the Chibok girls' abduction did not take place. And there is no excuse for it. But if you date back 10 years ago when this issue happened, the first few weeks of that particular abduction, there was complete denial from both the state government and the federal government that that abduction took place. The government says that nothing like that happened. And because it was, the political system of Nigeria, everything was sieved through the lens of politics. And so whether something good happens or something bad happens, it is seen as a political gimmick. And so the abduction of the Chibok girls also went through that. But security experts will always say that the first 24 to 48 hours of any abduction or kidnapping, is critical to the eventual outcome of that particular process. The sheer fact that there was denial from the state government registered something in the minds of many people, especially those who were on the side of the government at the time. They just felt, oh, this is another gimmick from the opposing party, and so they want to rubbish us. Till date, there are people who still taunt us. Till date, I have lost friends. Members of the Bring Back Our Girls group have lost friends. Even relatives have separated from some of us because they felt that the campaign was actually done just to boot out Goodluck Jonathan. But that was not the case. What did we see in 2014? It wasn't until May 5. May 5, just think of April 14, 2014 till May 5, 2014. It wasn't until May 5 that the government officially acknowledged that there was an abduction. But between that April 14 and May 5, there was a lot of conspiracy theories. A lot of people believe that the sheer fact that the government didn't acknowledge it means that the thing did not happen. And so Buki Shonibare, I have been to Chibok many times. I have stayed with them. I have eaten with them. I have drank water with them. I have gone to all of the 13 schools within the local government in Chibok. I have seen the school firsthand, the school where the Chibok girls were abducted. I have seen it. I saw it completely burnt at the time, and it was being rebuilt. I must thank the military because they helped me facilitate access to at least see what was going on. And so many other things. I've met with parents of the girls. I've met with relatives. I've met with some of the girls that have escaped. If you recall, it wasn't until Amina Nkeki came back in May of 2016 before there was sort of like a proof of abduction. Up until then, many people were still denying it. Till date, 10 years after, there are still many people who deny it. But I can say, at least I can put my integrity online, that indeed this happened. I have been there and I have seen them. Some of the girls have also come back and they've also told their story. Right now is not the time for any Nigerian, any well-meaning Nigerian to think of, or we are still engaging in that conversation that the abduction did not take place. Right now, what we should focus on is the fact that indeed the abduction took place. 91 of the girls are still missing. Leah Sharibu is still missing. There are many nameless and faceless ones that are still missing. And every Nigerian must bring his voice together to call on the government to make sure that they are brought back and that they are adequately taken care of.
Let's wind down on this note. I know a lot of people have said maybe it should change from bring back our girls, because clearly they won't be girls anymore. It's more like bring back our women. But just look at the figures. So over 270 girls abducted, 56 escaped from Boko Haram camps, 103 were rescued by the FG's intervention, 20 others were rescued by intervention of state government. That's a total of 179, so 92 still in captivity, just to give a pictorial representation. But back to the earlier statement I made. If 10 years after, some of them were to return, or all of them, hopefully, and that's just the timeline of those figures I gave earlier, what kind of work would we have on our hands to rehabilitate them? Because I've heard narratives that some of them say they want to stay back, and that's a narrative out there. Some say some of them have died, in fact. But if we were to get a large chunk of them back, what kind of work would we have on our hands? Because 10 years in captivity, some of them with children, I just don't want to paint that picture. Just give us a sense of the kind of work we'll have on our hands.
One of the things we did as a movement during the first few months of that abduction, and especially when the Buhari administration came into power, we developed what we call the 3R system: the rehabilitation, the resocialization, and the reintegration system. That system was just a one-pager, but basically saying that this is the work that we have in our hands when the Chibok girls return. And not just the Chibok girls, we used it as a model for every other abductee who have actually been abducted, like the Chibok girls, whether boys or girls. So we use that as a model to say that we have the work of reintegrating them into the society. Reintegration means that, let's think of 10 years right now. Reintegration means that these girls have been away. They were taken as children, and now they are coming back. Hopefully that they are able to come back. They are coming back as adults. Some of them were taken as Christians. Now they are coming back as Muslim, because we hear that a lot of them were actually converted. A lot of them were taken as young teenagers who have never been in love, who have never had children, but now they're coming back with children. And so reintegrating them back into the society is one work that we have into our hands. It's for them to be able to understand that in that process of reintegration, they understand the society that they are coming back to, the society that is different from what they have been used to in the forest or in the bush, where they are used as slaves and where they were, literally taken, and not the word married. Because if we use the word marry, it connotes that there was indeed a formal, an agreed kind of engagement that went into that. So we must be able to help them, reintegrate back into the society. So the government must be able to have such kind of activities or actions that will help them understand the system they are coming back into. The second one is that of resocialization. How do we resocialize them back into the social fabrics of the country? The schools that they go to, the religious institutions that they go to, even the playgrounds that they go to, the socializing with friends. How do we resocialize them back into a society that sees them as bad blood, into a society that stigmatizes them? Some of the Chibok girls that have returned have talked about how even they are coming back, they see their children as carrying Boko Haram blood, and so they were not accepted. Some of the Chibok girls that have returned have to leave Chibok or have to leave the communities where they live because they are seen as Boko Haram wives or they have Boko Haram blood, and so they are criminals. How do we resocialize them into that kind of society? How do we help the society also accept them and understand that it wasn't their fault, that they were abducted does not mean they voluntarily joined, and now that they have come back, how do we help the society take them back? It's still under the resocialization. And the final one is the rehabilitation of them. How do we help them get back on their feet? How do we help them, go back to school? How do we help them go back to school and still not be stigmatized? How do we help them find gainful employment? How do we empower them? So these three are, give some sort of like a framework, and even in that all of that process, what of their medical care is still the kind of work that we have. What of their psychosocial care is still the work that we have on the table. What of their financial empowerment and so many other things that I've mentioned. So if we look at that 3R, the reintegration, the resocialization, and the rehabilitation, it gives sort of like a framework for the kind of work that we have in our hands and for what the government can do, not just for the Chibok girls, but all other abductees that we hope will be returned.
And, that's quite a lot to reflect on as far as the Chibok incident is concerned and so many other abductions that have taken place afterwards, But if only there would be accountability about the real state of things such that, parents and families will have closure eventually about the state of their loved ones. We'd like to thank you very much, Madam Buki Shonibare, member Bring Back Our Girls movement, and also the executive director Invictus Africa. Thank you so much for the work you're doing, particularly for Chibok. We do appreciate you.
Thank you for having me.
And we move to the next leg of our conversation this morning, which would be the entry of Iran into the Israel-Hamas war. What has Iran got to do with it? A very big question that we'll try to answer for you after this break. Stay with us.
The sound of air raid sirens wailing in Jerusalem in the early hours of Sunday morning as Iranian drones and missiles entered into Israeli airspace. The drones were launched by Iran. Hundreds of them made their way towards Israel in Tehran's first direct attack on the Jewish state, signaling a major escalation of tensions in the region. The attack is Iran's response to an alleged Israeli airstrike on the Iranian consulate in Damascus, Syria on April 1st, which killed at least 7 members of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard, including a senior Quds force member. Israeli Minister of Defense Yoav Gallant said in a video statement the IDF thwarted the Iranian attack on its territory in an impressive manner. Gallant has described Iran as a terrorist state whose true face the world is now seeing. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says Israel is prepared for any attack from Iran, and it will exact a price from Iran as it weighs its response to the unprecedented overnight barrage of drones and missile strikes while facing international pressure to de-escalate. U.S. officials say President Joe Biden has made it very clear to Israel that he hopes to de-escalate tensions following the attack. They also say the U.S. will not participate in any Israeli offensive response. While Israel remains on high alert following the attack, it's been condemned by Britain, the European Union, and the G7, which have called for calm. Jordan has sought to de-escalate the tension, while militant group Hezbollah has congratulated Iran's leadership for its attack on Israel, calling it a wise decision.
And that's a conversation that is getting the concern of everyone around the world. And you should be interested, because if there's a wider conflict, it's going to be very disturbing. Mr. Femi Otubanjo, research professor of international relations and Strategic Studies at the Nigerian Institute of International Affairs, Lagos, joins us. Welcome to the program, sir.
Good morning, and thank you for having me.
Just like everyone else, I'm sure you're very concerned on this development now that Iran is in the fray of all of this. Now, it's more disturbing, perhaps bigger than, would I say bigger is the word now, more concerning than what's happening between Russia and Ukraine, because this can take a religious dimension, which can make things a bit convoluted. So how would you explain what is going on between Iran and Israel?
Iran was always part of the war in Gaza. So it is not new that what we have seen is just a mere a little bit of escalation of an ongoing Iranian engagement. Iran has around Israel more than 10 affiliates. Hezbollah, you have the Houthis who have been attacking ships. You have Islamic Jihad. You have the ones that was attacked in Syria, Islamic Revolutionary Guard. So essentially, Iran has fought on a proxy war through its affiliates, and Israel tried to respond to that by attacking the consulate in Damascus. It is that attack which killed a general and several other commanders of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard of Iran that has brought about this response. But as Iran has said strenuously, it is a one-off response. It is a reaction to that Damascus attack. Because it has to say first, Iran had encouraged its affiliates to be attacking Israel, and Israel has been attacked on all sides by all these affiliates in Syria, in Lebanon, and in the Yemen, and even in Iraq. And so there was no way that having been attacked and his generals killed, that he would just keep quiet. So it's some kind of measured, guided retaliatory attack is what we have seen. Whether it will lead to escalation depends really on Israel's reaction. It is if Israel begins to adopt a strategy of tit for tat that we might begin to see escalation. But from what we have heard so far, there's pressure on Israel not to take any measures. The pivotal country in this matter is the United States of America. The U.S. has the responsibility to put pressure on Israel not to respond. Because if Israel responds, obviously we expect that Iran will also respond. And then we cannot predict. The Yoruba say in the beginning of a fight that no, you cannot predict the end of it. So if the United States already imploring Israel to calm down and not to take any precipitate action, it has also specifically said that it will not take part, the U.S. military will not take part in any retaliatory action against Iran. That should caution Israel that it is not advisable that it should continue on this line. Israel has, of course, threatened that it will respond at an appropriate time and at the place of its choosing. But it must recognize that every response will lead to a counter-response, and there will be no end to escalation.
Goodness me, and the way you paint it is just really dire. But watching both ambassadors, ambassador of Israel to UN and Iran's ambassador to UN speak yesterday at the UN UNSC, you know, there's just that ominous feeling as to what will happen next. But you could hear from their tone that they were probably preparing for the worst, and the worst is not what we want to see now in the world, especially how it might spiral across board. But for the benefit of a younger generation who might not understand where this is coming from, you said it will become a case of tit for tat. And I'm trying to think, who was responsible for the first tit? Who was the first aggressor? And then we saw a tat that is now going back and forth. For some other young people, they see this as just a group of old people with big egos and big toys, you know, just pushing a button and, you know, killing people. How would you break it down to them? Who was responsible for the first hit? They were seeing this start and the back and forth.
Well, the reality is that well, it's a chicken and egg situation. Which comes from the chicken or the egg. Iran has consistently been hostile to Israel. There's no doubt about that. And as I did say in my opening remarks, Iran has several affiliates that are fighting their proxies. Iran is the one that is arming them, providing them with weapons. Iran is the main backer of Hamas, of Hezbollah, of the Houthis, of Islamic Renaissance, and all those groups that are fighting Israel. And so, if you are looking for the foundation of the tit for tat, maybe you can, the remote foundation is that proxy war that Iran has been fighting against Israel. But the immediate cause of this current escalation is the attack by Israel on Iranian consulate in Damascus, which led to the killing of top officers of the Iranian Islamic Revolutionary Guard. So I don't know which one now is beginning, which one is the cause and so on. But the reality is that Iran has been arming people against Israel. It has always taken a hostile, does not recognize the state of Israel, calls for the destruction of Israel, and so on. And Israel has always seen Iran as a major enemy. And of course, since the Carter period, the Americans on their side have seen Iran as a major enemy of the United States. And therefore, in working with Israel, America is working working against a common enemy. The reality here, of course, is that Israel is currently fighting a war in Gaza. And that war has not been concluded. That you cannot predict. The other time, Netanyahu talks, braggart and talks big, says it will end in a few weeks. When they got into the grand war in Gaza, they did not expect it to last for 6 weeks. But it started for more than 6 months. When Russia went to Ukraine, Russia, a nuclear superpower, went to Ukraine. It's been there for over 1 year. It's never been able to conclude it. And so if Israel does not caution itself and gets into a war with Iran, it will be opening a war on another front. Israel went to a war in Lebanon at one point and had to run away back, fighting Hezbollah. War is not something you can predict because everybody has access to modern weapons. And therefore, Israel does not really have the size of the military that can conduct expanded military operations for more than a few months. So it is in the interest of Israel more than anything else to try to caution itself and not depend on its so-called technological superiority to think that they can dump bombs on every country. But at the end of the day, you have to send ground troops. Where are the troops that you will send? So it is, and then of course, if the United States comes in, and although it's claiming that it will not participate, but when it comes to a direct war between Israel and Iran, the United States can be expected to participate. The Western powers will bring in their weapons, whether they bring in their troops is another matter. And we never know who is going to support Iran. Will Russia support Iran? Will China support Iran? So these are the dangers that we face in this kind of escalation. It's like the Nigerian government has advised, let everybody calm down and let diplomacy take effect. This is the time for diplomacy, not lobbing rockets and missiles and drones and so on. Because really, nobody will win the war. Everybody will be losers.
Indeed, Prof. And, even the United Nations has expressed worry that the Middle East appears to be on the brink with the Iran's attack on Israel. But the curious thing, which seems to be emerging now, is reports suggesting that Jordan may have opened up its airspace to Israeli and U.S. planes during that drone attack by Iran on Israel. And Israel may have also received help from Saudi Arabia, playing a critical role since they host, according to reports by DW, Western air defense systems and surveillance. So it would seem as if Israel may not be isolated as is generally perceived in the Middle East. So what do you predict could happen, following this attack by Iran? Would Israel be more isolated, or would it actually receive support from countries that are perceived to be either neutral or on the other side of support of the Arab countries?
Well, the fact that, as we are beginning to see, is that Israel received a great deal of support from the U.S. in shooting down several of the drones and missiles. It might have received, I cannot confirm that, might have received help from Saudi Arabia and other countries. But that is the nature of escalation. If you do not control the exchange of fire, you are going to find other people coming in, and you don't know how many will come in, how they will come in, and the proportion of their intervention. So the important thing is to sit back and look at the possibilities. There are people who have argued, even within Israel, that the Israel attack on Damascus was a misjudgment. It had no strategic value. All that he did was to try to tell Iran that I can get your associates, I can get your people. The practice in the past between the two countries is to fight through proxies. Israel will attack Hezbollah, Iran will supply Hezbollah, not attack each other directly. Israel breached that by going to attack the consulate of Iran, which is an attack on Iranian territory. That's, by the way, it's interesting, the point that was raised before about the Israelis and the UN. I saw the venom in the address by the Israeli ambassador, and I was wondering, is it not the same Israel that has shunned the UN, that has disobeyed the tons of UN resolutions, now calling on the UN to do something? I mean, you create an institution and you do not respect it. And in time of distress, you are now asking it to come and do something. The UN has been emasculated by all these powers. They do what they like. They disobey international law. They do not respect UN charter and do what they like. But when they are on the receiving end, they now shouting that the UN should come to their aid. They see the UN as their own instruments of diplomacy, of advancing their own interests, not managing global peace. So we need the UN Security Council to be firm and tell people to stay calm. But we must not depend on it, because these countries do what they like. When they are fighting themselves, like Russia is breaching the sovereignty of Ukraine for whatever reasons it may, it's a breach of sovereignty. Whether you can say it's in national interest, whatever justification. But is Russia listening to the United Nations? Is it listening to the Security Council? So that is the problem we have. Whether we will allow the Security Council to play its role and manage peace, because that is its primary assignment, manage peace in that region. But of course, what we expect and what we hope is that common sense will prevail in the United States. The United States has a major role to play in trying to calm down and pulling the strings that it has on Israel. And of course, this is an election year in the U.S. We must recognize that the Jewish situation is a major element in U.S. elections. We have to be careful. Biden would not go all the way to antagonize Israel, to withdraw support from Israel in a way that will make Israel vulnerable in the Middle East, because that will also affect his popularity in this election year.
Well, there appears to be enough hypocrisy and blame game to go around when it comes to the West. And when you look at the proxy wars that have been fought on all fronts, there's some U.S., Russia, Kiev being the ground zero, and then we're not having this fear of escalation, these perpetual enemies, Israel and Iran, and then we have China somewhere around the fringes and all of that. But The African sub-region, I don't know what's our stake in this and how we can approach this. So in proposing how Africa can approach this situation to maybe speak, we may not have a very big seat on the table, but from the little corner we sit, if anything happens, it will affect all of us. How can Africa approach this in terms of our leaders to make sure that this doesn't go beyond what it is?
Well, it's just to raise our voice. We have, international politics is about power. If you don't have power, you can't influence anything. But we can raise our voice, and we are doing so. Nigeria has already indicated its preference for diplomatic resolution of this dispute. So Africa can continue to raise its voice and put pressure, diplomatic pressure, on the big powers, particularly. But really, we have very little leverage. With the Middle East, we do not have a unit like the oil, the crude oil that can be used to pressurize the West. We have oil producers, but they do not amount to nothing in the calculus of international power. So our sub-region will continue to be just like the audience, watching what is going on and occasionally applauding or booing. But I think that a voice can count for something if you can work on the big powers, and also let Israel know that it can never win this war militarily. It has to depend on diplomacy to get what it wants.
Well, I know there's been that narrative online about self-acclaimed Prime Minister of Biafra Republic pledging to support Israel with 15,000 troops. A lot of people were not sure whether it was satire or otherwise, but I just wanted to stretch that a bit and show that, hey, it looks like governments, proper governments, are not even thinking about getting into this in the first place. All of that narrative is just out there, perhaps for satire and the rest. But on a final note, there's a fear of World War III. Do you see that happening in our lifetime? Because that's been trending.
Yeah, well, you see, there are all level of interest. Basically in international relations, you have core interests, you have secondary, you have peripheral. What you call millennial. What is happening is what you call millennial. These are interests that do not particularly affect those big powers that can generate war. I think that if we are going to have a war in the international system, that there must be some significant differences, conflict between the US and Russia, these big nuclear powers. I don't think that Russia will consider any great interest in this conflict, so want to fight a war. So while war is always next door to us, but it's not like the probability for now is still very remote. I believe that common sense will prevail. The United States will not consider what is happening in Israel sufficiently threatening to its interest as to want to go into war. And if the United States supports Iran, I'm not sure that will automatically activate Russian support. Russia will provide proxy support, but it will not send troops. So I'm not so sure that the United States will be anxious to send troops before. Also, don't forget that the US, I must say this, has not been successful since the Second World War in fighting wars, except in Iraq, where it managed to impose some peace there. But in Afghanistan, in Korea, in Vietnam, the United States had to run away. And I don't think that the people want to start another war whose ending will not be able to predict.
Prof, it's good to hear that we don't have a third world war in our hands, or it will be in our lifetime. It's quite soothing to hear that. Professor Femi Otubanjo, Research Professor of International Relations and Strategic Studies at the Nigerian Institute of International Affairs here in Lagos. Thank you, sir, for coming on the program.
Thank you very much for having me. Have a good day.
You too. Well, guys, when he talked about it's not possible, I just said amen in my heart. Let it not happen, because I've seen communal war and it wasn't funny. Some people have not seen any, you've just seen riots and all of that. I've seen communal war. I've been there at the epicenter of it, and it is not funny. Not to talk about a full escalation. You don't want to be there. I want to thank you for your time and company. I'm Jeffrey Uzama.
Thank you so much for watching. Let's remember to try and make love, not war. Join us again tomorrow and throughout the week when we bring you another edition of the program. I am Bukola Koka.
And not to forget that Sunrise Daily comes up any moment from now. So join us. We have bumper package for you. Let common sense always be the watchword for all of us, government and the people. I'm Kayode Okikiolu. Have a great day.